up SEC play for the Tigers. Tigers trying to forget about what happened to them last weekend in Austin as they drop all three to the Longhorns. Coach Nolan, Cain, usually a Monday regular with us, but to add a little insult to injury, once the Tigers were beat up on the field, the airplane couldn't get off the ground, and they had to bus back to Baton Rouge from Austin, Texas. Coach, I know you're glad to be back home. Thanks for the time this morning.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on.
How was just give me the overview from the weekend from the coach's standpoint. I know from the fan standpoint what they saw that they didn't like, but from your guys' point of view, now you're back in Baton Rouge. You got an opportunity to digest what happened. When you look back at the three games, what do you see?
I mean, at the end of the day, people want complex answers, but there are no complex answers. And with baseball, it's such a numbers game that the answers usually lie in the numbers. And, the frustrating thing was the first 2 days, I mean, we really just, couldn't get anything going and didn't really have much of a chance when you walk 9 on Friday, then you walk 11 on Saturday. It's tough to overcome that. They only had 5 hits on Saturday and they scored 8 runs. So, like I said, usually the answers are in the numbers. And, I think with the pitching staff, we didn't play good all the way around. Pitching, we didn't hit it, we didn't field it very well. But, when it comes to pitching, it's, you can't be afraid of contact. You almost have to kind of embrace, getting hit because the percentages are in your favor. So we got to get out there and, pound the zone and attack hitters. And, when you get ahead, you got to stay ahead in the counts. The goal of, the pitching staff is to be on first base or in the dugout less than 4 pitches and win the 1-1 count. And I think that those are difficult things for pitchers. In me being a former pitcher and somebody that didn't figure it out until later in their career, you literally have to, embrace the contact because that's how you get early outs. That's how you get to extend your outings and go deeper into games. And like I said, you got to win the 1-1 count. I mean, 1-1 count this year, when we get to 1-2, the batting average against is 103. When we get to 2-1, the batting average against is 357. That's a 254-point swing.
Wow.
And that's not just indicative of LSU baseball. That's baseball. Baseball is a game of numbers. And, when our pitchers are ahead in the count, so 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, our batting average against is 186. And when our pitchers are behind in the count, our batting average against is 293. It's a 107-point swing. So, that's what you see with a lot of young pitchers, especially coming from high school. They just strike out the world because they're just better than the other guys. They get here and they go, wait, I've made that pitch a lot and I've never gotten hit like that. And that's what's going to happen because at the end of the day, say you're just an average pitcher, you have a 270 BA against. You're only giving up a hit an inning. As long as you don't walk anybody, you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
so I think that's what the young guys – and listen, AD spent 2 years in the big leagues as assistant pitching coach, 15 years in professional baseball. He's turned down multiple head coaching jobs in college baseball since he's been here. He's turned down, big league pitching coach jobs since he's been here. This has been his philosophy the whole time. I think you're just seeing, hey, these are young pitchers that really have to buy into what he's telling them and believe what he's telling them. And at the end of the day, we got swept. The first 2 games were tough. I'll take the third game any day of the week. You're on the road. You're up by 2. You got Todd Peterson, who I believe is the best pitcher on our team, who's had track record of having success. And we just didn't make a couple of plays behind him. He didn't make a couple of pitches. You could have lived with that. If we walk away from that series going 1-2, I think, everybody's, feeling around the program would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's better that it happens now than later in the season. And I think as the season goes along, you'll see that, Coach Maneri, Coach Dunn, they'll figure out what the right formula is. Over time, that's the thing with baseball. Like with football, you get beat like this, like you can't win a national championship, right?
Yeah.
With us, we get to play 56 games. It's all how you finish the season. It's all about being a national seed. It's all about hosting a regional, a super regional, and getting to Omaha. So everything that we want to do is right out in front of us. But, this week we have to flush what happened, but we have to improve in the areas that we've been stressing. Because if you look, even the first 8 games, it wasn't great in those 1-1 counts and those things that I'm talking about.
There were some potential red flags.
Yes, exactly. But now I think that you can really get your point across as a coaching staff that, hey, you have to do these things.
Yeah, and look, sometimes like the best lessons are the hardest learned, right? And so you almost can kind of spin this into a positive when it comes to getting guys to trust what you're telling them. So when it comes to finding that accuracy, though, right, cutting down on the amount of walks, it sounds like you're saying that it's almost more mental than physical. Is that why you believe that it's fixable? Because like to use like another football thing, a lot of coaches believe if a quarterback's not accurate, that's not always something that you can teach. It's not always something that you can develop. It's almost more natural. Do you think the lack of accuracy from LSU is it more mental or physical right now?
I think it's just like hitting. Hitting is contagious. Pitching is contagious as well. You know, when you're hitting good, it seems like everybody's hitting good. And then when you come out of the pen or something, and the game's kind of out of hand, and you look up there and it's 7-1, and you're going, oh my gosh, these guys are killing the ball. No, they're not. They're just we just haven't been filling up the strike zone. And so I think that it's one of those things that we'll continue to figure out, because these pitchers have had a track record of doing it throughout high school. They've had a track record of doing it in the fall in the scrimmage. And I think now it's just like the lights are coming on. It's a new season. Everything's been turned over, and they just have to don't let the game speed up on them too much, and just believe in what Coach Dunn has been teaching them. And I think it's going to all work out.
How do you feel the bats performed this weekend? Obviously, some up and downs. Elder, probably the best pitcher that they faced thus far this season. What do you think about the performance at the plate?
Oh, it was just okay. I mean, it was a tough conditions. It was cold. The wind was blowing in. They didn't hit it that great either this weekend. With playing on slow turf that just seemed to eat up a lot of balls that are usually hits for guys. And we obviously could have done much more at the plate. But there were some bright spots in there. Josh Smith had a good weekend. Chris Reed, came in on Saturday, finished the game, had 2 hits, had a hit on Sunday. He went 3 for 6. So I think offensively, we've been doing it pretty well this season. I think we were just average this weekend, but again, tough conditions with it being, cold and the wind blowing in, and then you mix the turf in as well. But definitely not 100% acceptable by LSU standards, obviously.
What do you expect from McHale on Wednesday?
Man, there weren't a ton of bright spots this weekend, but McHale was one of them.
Yep.
He had 2 outings last week. He bounced back good, and 2 innings on Saturday versus Texas. He had 3 strikeouts. His fastball had that natural cut that it's always had, and I think the big thing looking for him was how was he going to bounce back with the arm, and he looks great. So I expect McHale to come out and do what he's always done and get us off to a great start against Holy Cross on Wednesday. I mean, at the end of the day, they're 1-10 and they're hitting 198 as a team. So this will be a prime example of just getting out there and filling up the strike zone and trusting your stuff. What's
the concern level around Jaden Hill?
You know what? I actually was not in the office yesterday. I was on the road recruiting, so I have not gotten an update on him. From talking to him, I think every day he's been feeling a little bit better just from asking him over the weekend. And hopefully he starts playing some catch this week. Nolan, can you help me out on this? You were a pitcher, so arm soreness. What does that feel like? Is it just your arm? I mean, is there a specific region of the arm that feels sore, or when you feel in a specific spot, you say, "I raise my hand"? I mean, how does this work? Well, that's the tough thing to figure out. I mean, these kids are throwing so much harder these days, and in high school. They pitch during their high school season, and then during the summer circuit is so long that it's tough to gauge how many innings these kids are actually pitching before they get to campus. But, I mean, in all honesty, man, I had Tommy John my freshman year at LSU. Every time I pitched, and I think you've probably heard Doug Thompson say this. I mean, me and him joke around about it all the time, old battle scars and talking about things. I mean, there were days that the next day where I literally couldn't brush my teeth with my right hand.
Jeez.
So, but again, I had Tommy John in the elbow. Obviously, to answer your question, the tough thing for young kids to figure out is what is soreness and what is hurt. Mm-hmm. And I think that you don't realize those things until you start going through them. You don't know, like, oh, man, I've never really been sore here, but I'm not feeling great. Do I get out there and try to test it and throw? But to answer your question, yeah, I never felt great the day after I pitched. Sure. Of course, I had terrible mechanics and a terrible arm action, so that was probably part of the reason.
Nolan, Cain, LSU baseball. Tigers host Holy Cross on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock first pitch over there at the box. And then this weekend, Cal comes to town for a 3-game set. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys.
Always.
Thanks, Coach.
There he is, Coach Nolan Cain checking in from LSU as the Tigers now will host Holy Cross. Mikhail Hilliard will get the start on Wednesday night. We'll be back and close it out here on OTB.